Hello and welcome to Secular Sexuality, the ACA show that sometimes, occasionally, and quite by accident, finds you a find and catches you a catch. I'm Vi Bianca, and with me today are a couple of faces that you might not recognize, although you've been watching the show alongside them for the whole of last year, Jonathan and Ragabash Dabbler. Welcome, you guys.
Hello.
Hi Vi. How you doing?
I am so excited to have this episode. I know that I kind of bugged you both, like, hey, come on the show with me and talk to me about how we helped you find each other. But I'm just so excited to be hanging out with some YouTube friends and talking about love in the time of COVID, how we find each other, how we find relationships, and how we find out new things about ourselves. So if you guys have questions for Jonathan and Rags, or if you have a story yourself about how you either came into or left a relationship during COVID, or maybe discovered something new about yourself with the help of this show or elsewhere, give us a call at 512-991-9242. Or if you can't be bothered to pick up a phone, hit that link at tiny.cc/callsex to share your stories. We would love to hear from you. All right. So you guys, let's chat a little bit about first plugging away. How did you find the show? What about the show spoke to you, and why did you keep tuning in?
You want to go first, babe?
Sure. So I was in the atheist closet for a while, and before that, I was somebody who liked to watch ACA shows just to argue with people, like in my head, pause the video and argue. And I kept hearing about secular sexuality, and I was like, I don't know if I'm even really into that. They're going to talk about scary stuff. And then eventually I kind of got comfortable with myself and comfortable with walking away from faith and that sort of thing. And there was a night where it was like just a Thursday night. It was time for Secular Sexuality. And I was like, I'm going to watch this show. I want to see what this is about. And I turned it on and I was like, where has this been all of my life? Because I was watching people like bring things up and talk to me about topics where I was like, oh, I have that same problem. And I've been denying myself about it for a while. So it's just been this sort of therapeutic tool in the background for a while now, where I've just kind of gotten to listen to people ask questions that I was kind of too uncomfortable to ask and then hear really good answers. And that's sort of how I found it. And that's kind of why I keep coming back.
That is awesome to hear. Yeah, a lot of people are surprised that the content creators that put out Atheist Experience and Talk Heathen have other shows. We do, in fact. If you're watching this, hi, you found us. Jonathan, how about you?
As far as that goes, I found that long after I deconverted. I mean, taking a look back at it, I've probably been an atheist most of my life and just wasn't willing to admit it to myself on account of living where I live. And yeah, I had a bout of flu last year in February, something like that. I don't go to the doctor as a general rule. I'm not some millionaire who goes to doctors. And yeah, after I ran out of woodworking videos on like the third day of being sick, I got recommended ACA shows in the YouTube algorithm. And then I ran out of Matt Dillahunty videos to watch. And then I ran out of Atheist Experience videos in general to watch. And then I ran out of Talk Heathen videos to watch. And then I found Secular Sexuality because it was the last thing on my list, because I thought I was perfectly fine with the level of sexuality that I had. So I wasn't really worried about it. And it kind of turned out to be the best show for me personally.
Aw, I'm super curious about how the YouTube algorithm got you from woodworking videos to Matt Dillahunty.
Well, I understand that he is a woodworker, but he never talks about it, so who knows?
YouTube knows things about us that we don't even say. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I remember I found Secular Sexuality kind of the same way you guys did, because I certainly have not been here since its primary iteration. I was in the process of deconverting. Rags, I do exactly the same thing, where I'd listen to AXP or Talk Heathen, and I'd pause it and just like argue with the caller in my head and see like how close I could guess like what the hosts are going to answer. And then eventually I found Secular Sexuality, and it was actually the first consistent show that I was invited to host at once I moved over to Austin. So I am super excited that both of you found us and that we're speaking to you a little bit. So I guess my next question for you guys is, how did you guys kind of become aware of each other, and what were y'all's first impressions of each other? Because I'm not sure if you found each other exactly through the show. I know I saw you interact together more and more in the live chat over the course of the year. Talk me through how you guys found each other online.
Well, speaking for Rags, he saw me engaging with a troll on Twitter and thought that I was incredibly attractive, and it was love at first sight on his part. I took some convincing, but you know.
I mean, yeah. All of the resistance was on his part. No.
But
no.
We,
Go ahead.
as far as actually meeting goes, beyond realizing we liked engaging with the same type of dishonest interlocutors on Twitter, I got involved with Eric Murphy's Discord, and from there I made friends, and from those friends I started playing with Dungeons and Dragons with a group that was available through those friends, and Rag started playing with that group. And
D&D brought you together.
Yep.
I mean, we don't advertise that.
Well, it's out there now. It's live. Y'all heard it here first. Oh, that's awesome.
That technically we had talked before then, I will have you know. So, you know, we don't necessarily claim that, but that was when I saw him outside of his YouTube videos. He did a very, I'm sorry, babe.
No, go ahead.
He did a very moving video called An Atheist Talks to God, and that's sort of what endeared me to him.
Wonderful. Well, we will certainly be sending all you guys over to both their channels, because I know Rags has that channel, and then Jonathan actually is putting together a D&D style channel as well. So you guys are going to get lots of great content from these two at the end of the show. But Rags, I'm curious what your version of this was as well.
Yeah.
So I already told you his version.
Right. He speaks for me. Honestly,
That's
I'm just
very healthy. I like that. Yeah. That's a healthy relationship.
So I did first interact with him on Twitter, and I sort of recognized him from like being in chats on videos and that sort of thing. We'd never actually spoken, and I saw something pop up where he was dealing with some dishonest interlocutor who accused him of lifting weights and eating donuts in like an insulting way, and his response was, lifting weights is fun and donuts are delicious. What's your point? And it was so funny to me, and I just tweeted at him. I was like, you ever fall in love with a stranger? And I was pretty sure I came on too strong. I was like, oh, that was a bad mistake. Okay, just let it ride. And then we started talking from there, and then noticed more and more like how our paths were crossing. And so it just kind of, it went from there. And then, yeah, we ended up on a D&D game together and doing a couple of live streams together. And then first date time, we decided to go hiking, because if we didn't actually like each other, we could just lose each other in the woods and it wouldn't be a big deal.
You said it was for social distancing reasons.
If I needed to distance myself from you, then that would have been a pretty good
Technically, that's another form of social distancing oneself. Right?
But yeah, it was a safe way to get together, and we went hiking and did the whole thing, and we had a lot of fun, and it's just kind of gone from there.
Yeah, walk us through that a little bit. I remember knowing about this before you guys like were public, or had told many people, and Jonathan was like so excited. He was like texting me on Twitter. He's like, I'm going on a date with this guy. I'm so excited. He's so cute, and we're gonna go for a walk in the woods. Sorry, Jonathan, throwing you under the bus here.
No. If I remember correctly, I was hilarious and attractive, and that's what happened.
That's what happened.
That's what happened. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about how long ago was this again? I feel like it was yesterday, but also like 10 years ago because 2020
COVID
was
sucks.
horrible.
Yeah.
Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Yep.
What were we looking at there?
October?
October. It would have been after my birthday, but before yours, I think.
Yes. Yeah. It was. Yes. Actually, that's a pretty good way to gauge it. So
I'm good at stuff
sometime
like
late October, and yeah, we were talking, and we were trying to figure out a COVID-friendly way. We also live a couple of hours apart from each other, so we were trying to find a place where like neither of us sort of had home court advantage, and that sort of thing. It was. And then Jonathan was like, well, there's actually a really beautiful park with a lot of hiking trails in the gorge and a river, and we should just go do that. And I said yes, and then woke up the next day and went, oh my God, what have I just done?
You're going into the woods with a stranger.
Right? This is good. This is exactly what every horror film from the early 2000s is about. Good job. Way to go, Rags. But no, that's sort of how it came about, was as a way that was sort of friendly on all sides to be able to meet up for the first time and that sort of thing. It was good.
Awesome. And then after that first date, were you guys like, all right, next one right away? Was it like how did you, I guess my question is, how did you progress from there? Where are you now as opposed to that first date in the woods?
I would say probably like the fact that the world is locked down right now kind of helped us get to know each other without feeling like that pressure to be physically interacting all the time. So we just spent a lot of time talking, and a lot of time finding ways to be together without physically being together. And that was really fun.
The part he's not mentioning for my sake is that I was a little scared of physical intimacy, but yeah.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Okay.
As much as you're comfortable with, of course.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, but that was also one of those things, because I had not too long before that come out of a less than constructive relationship, let's say. So we were kind of meeting at a mutual place there of like not wanting things to go too far too fast, but also really wanting to spend time together. And it was almost like COVID was a catalyst for that. It's like, well, technically we can't, so let's just hang out and talk until 2 a.m. and that kind of thing. And everything kind of just went from there.
Awesome. And then as far as the show, bringing it back, how I'm curious, because I know that I have interacted with the show differently since coming on as one of the hosts, because my romantic and sexual and gender life, like every aspect of it, has shifted and changed over the course of the last 1.5 to 2 years. Oh my God, it's going to be 2 years in July. Jesus Christ. But I'm curious for you guys, how did you interact with the show as single people, and how has that kind of morphed and changed as a couple? Like, do you watch the show together? Do you talk about the themes? I know Jonathan has called in a couple of times. So like, how has that shifted?
So bringing that back to me calling in a couple of times, I forgot for a minute that Rags watched the show after our first date. And I called in for dating advice and, got some really good, solid advice. Thank you, V. And afterwards, he sent me a text that was, "You're adorable."
Oh my
And we
goodness.
talked. We used it as a springboard to talk about more of what we were comfortable with and how far we were okay with going physically and emotionally as well. And it was actually really therapeutic to get to do that. And then It's almost like how if you have therapy, sometimes you wish you could just let people in on like a snippet of your therapy session. I'm not recommending secular sexuality as replacement for therapy, by the way. Don't.
Yes,
No.
please no.
No, no, no. You need
I don't
professional
want
help,
to
get professional help.
ruin you as a person.
Yeah. But no,
No, but
it
that
was
is a
good.
great, like, hey, like life hack. Like if you want to tell your significant other to watch the show and then call in and pretend like, oh, whoops, I'm just talking to somebody else about this.
That is not what I did.
It is sort of a window.
Unless-
It is sort of a window, though, like into those conversations that your significant other has, like with a good friend or somebody who's trusted, where they're getting to speak in your absence, and then you kind of get to get a little bit of a gauge of what's going on in a way where they don't feel put upon to please you or to balance things out, and they're just able to kind of unload what's happening.
Yeah, no, it was just uncomfortable for me because I had Jonathan on the line and I knew Rags was in the chat, and I'm just like, this is awkward now.
Oh no!
You knew. Dang.
I'm willing to go through that for you guys, though. You're worth it.
Well, and also I've called into the show a couple of times, but surprisingly, I don't use my pseudonym because my mom didn't actually name me Ragabash. So there are clips of me calling into the show from both before Jonathan and I got together and after.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, but I'm not going to release the name that it was listed under. You're just going to have to listen for my dulcet tones and infer.
See, that's a problem though, because you sound very, very similar to a close friend. So, like, I'm going to just get the two of you mixed up now forever.
But it was like, especially, especially knowing that we do kind of share this space and that we both do watch the show, but also knowing that like maybe he's not looking out for this thing. It's like, okay, do I call or do I not? Do I call or do I not? Actually, I think I've got something I really, really, really want to call about. So it was sort of an exercise in honesty on my part, where it was like, well, I would talk to somebody about this normally, and I have like, Christy's a mental health professional, and, you're very experienced in dealing with lots of things. And typically the guest was somebody who was experienced in dealing with the specific situation that I wanted to deal with. So I'm like, this is a golden opportunity. Like, I'm not going to let this go. I want to call in. But even that was like a little bit of mental calculus of just like, can I do it? Can I do it? And it's like, yeah, of course you can. Like, because if he asked me directly, we'd talk about it. So let's talk about it with like the curtain of being an anonymous voice on the internet. Why not?
I like it. I like that. Oh my gosh. Oh goodness. Okay. So I do want we have actually a couple of callers today, which is exciting. So we're going to jump over there, and then we're going to talk specifically around COVID and dating during COVID and kind of how it impacted the relationship. We've touched on it briefly, but I'm curious about, just all of those considerations and how that might have morphed the relationship. And, as someone who can very, very easily attest to how COVID accelerates things.